that your O
I'm
face?
Brian A.
I'm Jeff M.
I'm Billy D.
And we are here for our, I don't know if I'm an innie or an outie. I don't know at any point in my life. I'm definitely a split person, but.
I was thinking about this the other day as Billy has sort of become the shared universe's Severance expert since he watched each episode like fucking 15 times. But the fact that you are already going by Billy D is so perfect.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It really works well.
And not only that, I had one of those belly button hernias, so I went from an innie to an outie back to an innie.
I would consider myself an outie because I have to be much different. Like,
wait, are you saying that right now you're an outie on this show, or just in general you're an outie?
Well, this might be a third. It might be a real Gemma situation for me, you know. But I would say the way I react and act on this podcast is pretty accurate to who I am out in the real world. When I'm at work, sometimes you can't be the way we are here.
I think I'm the same person maybe at work and at home. No, I'm two different people. I'm three different people. I'm definitely work Brian, home goo, podcast goo. And I would only imagine, like, you know, someone trying to discourage me as like, your home Brian A collects turtles. Your home Brian
No, it would be your outie likes snaps. Your outie is very sleepy.
Your outie was in a Madden league until he realized that it was just too much and he had to quit.
Goo, by the way, thank you for finally showing up to review Severance with me. I reviewed season 1 with Keith and Davey because no one had really seen it yet except for Keith, Davey, myself, and Billy. It also coincided with your trip to Italy, in which you didn't end up going on because you got COVID.
First time I got COVID. Also, the first time I was supposed to go to Italy. We eventually went to Italy. Second time didn't bring the sun. I'm actually pretty happy with this because I don't know how that would have worked the first time.
Yeah, that's fair. So to bring you back 3 years ago when season 1 came out, I remember Keith looking for someone to watch the show so he could talk to with. He found Billy. They were talking it up, saying it's like the best show on television right now. So I ended up starting to watch season 1 the day the season 1 finale was coming out. I ended up finishing like overnight. I watched all 9 episodes of season 1 in like 10 hours. It was fucking great. I loved binging it. And after that point, I was great to watch because I think you and Keith did an episode on it, and then me, Keith, and David did an episode on it like 2 weeks later or something like that. So It was good to have a little bit of in between.
It's a great show to binge, but I don't know if I would want to ever binge it from here on out.
That's true. That is
also
true.
This must be COVID fog because I thought that you had Billy on our show to discuss Severance season 1.
Yeah, no, you've been saying that for the last couple of weeks, and you basically convinced me of that.
No one corrected me until Mac today. Mac's like,
no, we did the Breaking Bad sequel show together. The end of that one.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And then I listened to the episode of season 1, and it wasn't you. It was me, Keith, and Davey. And I was like, Goo was so confident that he convinced me that it was you. Severance season 2, an Apple TV Plus show.
Do you not know how our show works?
You gotta hit the intro.
Oh, we're 45 minutes in. I thought we were ready for it.
One goo, 3, yeah. Goo. Jaws 3. Goo. King of Queens. Goo. Meryl Streep. Goo. Entertainment.
I'm Goo.
And I'm Mac.
And we are the Mac and Goo program. We bring you innies, outies, and all friendships in between.
And today we are bringing you, you know what? Why this show works for so many people is, innie and outie is very relatable because of what we just talked about in the open, how different some people are at work and at home, and how sometimes you just have to tolerate friends at work. You have work friends, and then you have real life friends. And so I think this show is relatable on a lot of levels.
Well, also the whole thought of wanting to separate your entire life, work and home.
Yeah, right. Make someone that I don't know, that I won't remember, do all the shitty stuff, and then I get to enjoy the fun stuff.
It's like Adam Sandler's Click all over again. I'm sure Christopher Walken pointed that out several times on set. He is the crossover of the two.
Oh, that's right. I am very much the outie always, except when I meet somebody for the first time. I'm very much an innie, which sucks on first dates because I usually just I'm terrible on them because I'm not myself.
People are always so disappointed when they're expecting to meet a certain version of me, and then they meet quiet, kind of sitting in a corner like this.
Oh, my friend Kevin was pissed when he met
He
you.
was
He's like,
pissed.
"What was
I'm
wrong with you?"
I put all of my energy into this 45-minute program. I put a lot of energy into work. That when I'm out of here, I am tired. I am nothing but tired, and I don't want to talk to anybody.
You on the program, so passionate, convicted of whatever he's talking about. In his regular life, you're just like, yeah, sure, why not?
Best thing is about most things in life, I don't care.
Today, boys, we are back together. I don't remember last time the three of us all did an episode, but I'm happy to have you
We built
back.
the
Billy.
house.
Yeah, that's right. We are discussing Severance Season 2, a season of television, 3 years in the making. Goo, when did you finally watch Season 1? Was it recently?
Yes, I started binging season 1 so that I was caught up by episode 3 of season 2. Also,
Okay.
who's on the program today? Did we introduce Billy?
Yeah, sure. Billy D's our power bottom today.
Yeah, he's from the Pineapple.
Yeah, and what's the other one?
PCP
DraftKings.
whenever Scream comes out.
R.I.P.
That's right. Whenever stream is available, Billy's doing a podcast.
And of course, if you're tuning in here, I'm sure you're listening to #Dork, where Billy's been on there every week reviewing and talking about Severance weekly. So he's deep into this whole thing. He's certainly a much bigger expert on this show than anyone else.
Whenever I had a
that we know.
question during the season, I would message Billy being like, hey, I think that this innie is actually an outie or this outie is doing something. And then he would go and watch a very specific either elevator scene or a hallway scene to look at the movement or like how people's shoulders are to give a little deeper dive and then either say maybe or you might be right. He never once told me. He's never like, oh yeah, definitely. He
I
still
just
has
whip
no
out.
idea.
Yeah, I take out the iPad and I just figure it out.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this season, right? And this show, it's so well written that things aren't clear until they're outright said so, right? You could kind of lean either way, and we're going to get into a big thing in the finale here where I think I feel one way and maybe you two don't. It's not explicit until they actually tell you.
It's also not just well written, it's well thought out because you can still write things that you don't think out all the way. This show is clearly, and I'm hoping, and we'll get deeper into this later on, that we have a conclusion either by the end of this next season or maybe one more after that. But the further that you try and stretch this idea, you might start to lose control over what's going on.
So far, though, the connective tissue that holds everything together is ultra strong. Everything's lining up, and you're just like, they really thought of that then? Like Dieter Egan, which I thought was 100% only in season 2, appears like in a billboard in a forest in season 1 at some point. So they were so far ahead of this shit. It's crazy.
Now, for anyone listening right now, you probably have watched the show, but if you haven't, we gave you our elevator face. Should we give them an elevator pitch of the show? It's to me, it's essentially, 50% of Lost's DNA with a little bit of like Get Out and some sci-fi thriller stuff.
Twin Peaks.
Yeah, some Twin Peaks in there.
Season 1.
Westworld is good.
Look,
sprinkle in a little bit of Office fun there too.
Yeah, more so in season 1 than this season.
Yeah.
I think very simple is that if you like to weekly watch a television show where you need to pay attention to what's going on and try and follow the breadcrumbs to solve the mystery, this is 40 dog stuff. I just kind of tip my hand there, but this is the best of if you're trying to solve not only a mystery, but a fucking weird mystery. This is that type of show.
Lost was one of my favorite shows of all time. This is already outpacing it by a wide margin. And the first 2 seasons of Lost are phenomenal.
Yeah, because Lost, probably halfway through season 2, you were like, I don't know if they know where they're going with this stuff. Where here it seems like, and I'm hopeful for, there is a clear end in sight. And where we're left off at the end of the season, I really hope it doesn't go 4 seasons. I hope it's 3 seasons and we're done with, you know?
Well, this show
I think
also
we need one more season, and that one more 10-episode season should get us to where we need to go.
This show also has an advantage over, say, a Lost, where Lost was tied to ABC, and they said, you have to give us a certain amount of episodes for a certain amount of seasons, and they kept on having to go with it. Whereas this is a streamer on a platform that I think just wants the best quality possible, so much so that every year Apple TV Plus loses $1 billion.
Yeah, and to that point, I actually do believe Lost was conceived as a 3-season show.
It was.
So it got fucked up from that point on.
It was so wildly successful. They were like, you got to give us more.
Yeah, and also that was 24 episodes of hour-long TV compared to 9 in season 1 and 10
ABC
here.
said, without you, we'd be lost.
Severance season 2, of course, on Apple TV Plus. Pretty much the only reason I have an Apple TV Plus subscription at the moment. Again, we waited damn near 3 full years for this season. It is a TVMA drama, mystery, sci-fi thriller, and I think it hits on all those aspects tremendously. It doesn't just dip its toes in any of those. If you just said it was just a drama, it would qualify. Just a mystery, it would qualify. Sci-fi thriller, same thing. It does all those things amazingly.
Romance.
Yeah, you get a little bit of that in there too, mixed in with the drama. This season was 10 episodes, totaling 497 minutes, or nearly 50 minutes an episode. It's pretty consistent with season 1. Season 1 had 9 episodes. On Roddy T's season 2, 95% from the critics, only 70% from the audience.
I'm actually fine with that, because I think a show like this, you don't want everyone to like it. You don't want this to be for everybody. Smarter programming isn't always for everybody.
It's interesting, though, because season 1 is 97% critics, 85% audience. I find it weird that it's lower, because
They
you
got
wouldn't
weirder
watch
this year.
season
They
2.
got weirder.
They
I think
dive into what you wanted.
Yeah, people I always talk to that don't really enjoy it as much as I do say, where are all the answers? It's like reading a book, getting to the middle and being like, why don't I know the end of the story yet? It's like, well, because it's not done.
Yeah,
That's what makes me mad.
The Empire Strikes Back has more questions than answers.
Right.
You got to get to the end. And they gave the best thing about this show is that when they answer a question, 10 spring out of that one answer.
Right.
Also, season 1, they produced the entire first season and put out the first season having no idea what the reception would be, if people liked it. So they might have had it a little bit tighter, thinking this might only be a 1-season show. Whereas after that first season, they said, we know we have at least 2 seasons here. We know we have more story to tell. So they are stretching it a bit differently, and they went a little bit on the weirder side here.
Well, season 1 also is, because it's an introduction in the beginning of a story, you're dealing with that natural buildup, right? In a wildly awesome conclusion. Whereas this season starts up there, and it is mostly up there, but there are some dips. So I could see, if you're expecting it to be 40 dogs every episode, maybe you're mildly disappointed in the season. But I felt like this kept up the tension that we built to at the end of season 1. In every episode. It was there in every single episode, even in the Cobell episode that a lot of people didn't care for. And to that point, on Metacritic, 86 season 2 compared to 83 in season 1.
And the thing I loved about this season is, take a show like Lost, and basically any show that's procedural. Like Lost had the same formula. This code switched almost every single episode, where it was all innies, all outies, a mix, just Cobell. So you never knew what you were in store for every Thursday or Friday night whenever you watched it. And that was always a fun ride for me. What are we getting tonight?
This show is created by Dan Erickson, directed and produced by Ben Stiller. Those are the 2 driving forces behind this show. You also have executive producers, Erickson, Arquette, Patricia Arquette, Jackie Cohn, Adam Scott, and Nicholas Weinstock. Synopsis of Severance, which makes more sense for season 1 than I guess season 2, but this is all we got.
They don't update the synopsis.
They never update them. It bothers the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Mark leads a team of office workers whose memories have been surgically divided between their work and personal lives. When a mysterious colleague appears outside of work, Petey, it begins a journey to discover the truth about their jobs. Now, before we get into spoilers or even get further, I will say Petey and reintegration ends up taking a massive backseat at the end of this season, and I wonder if it was all just to like bring Cobell's stuff back in. I was a little annoyed by that.
Let's
I'll
wait
admit
for
that.
spoilers on that because
Okay.
I mean I have thoughts. We have no resolution. Like we don't know anything. Now,
Yeah.
let's just
No,
put it out
you're
there
right.
right now.
You're
Us
right. You're
three,
right.
we don't really know anything.
Yeah, which is true. And to Billy's point, when we do get a resolution, 5 to 10 more questions pop up.
Yeah.
And I'm just so fucking confused.
It's like
the
when
whole
you cut
time.
the head off a dragon.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I think this is the first show in a really long time. I was trying to remember the last one where I like watched it, thought I understood it, then would watch a video breakdown and then became more confused, but in a good way, because now I'm thinking, oh, it could be this, it could be that. That's like to Goo's point at the beginning. If you're looking for a show where you want to dive fully into, this is it.
Like if you want a show where you have to watch it with a notebook, right here.
I do. I really do.
Psychopath.
Bear with me with this cast list because it's long and they're all actually kind of
So
important.
just rip through it. Everyone's good. We're not going to stop you.
Yeah. Adam Scott as Mark Scout, Britt Lauer as Helena Egan, Zach Cherry as Dylan George, John Turturro as Irving Bailiff, Trammell Tillman as Seth Milchick.
I will stop you right there. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to do it. But if I were to point at one reason why this season is better than season one, if I was to make that statement, it would be because of all the Milchick stuff that we got in this. I thought his character was just so magnetic, and everything that he did, you have no idea what the reasoning is. And I just want to know more and more about this character. I prefer him over Cobell from season one.
Fair enough.
MVP, absolutely.
Again, let's save the remarks for the end. Goo.
That was the one that I had.
Jen Tulloch as Devin Scout Hale. That's Mark's sister. Dyken Lockman as Gemma Scout / Miss Casey. Patricia Arquette as Harmony Cobell. Michael Chernus as Rick and Hale. Christopher Walken as Burt Goodman. Mark Geller as Kier Egan. Sarah Bach gets introduced this season as Miss Huang. Sydney Cole Alexander as Natalie Kalin. Olaf Dari Olafson, hell of a name, gets introduced this season as Mr. Drummond. Karen Aldridge is back as Asal Ragabi. Michael Siberry as Jamie Egan, that's Helena's father. Merritt Weaver is introduced as Gretchen George. Robbie Benson is introduced as Dr. Maurer. Sandra Bernhard introduced as Nurse Cecily. Gwendolyn Christie is back as Lauren. She's the goat lady. Claudia Robinson back as Felicia from O&D. We get introduced to John Noble as Fields and Jane Alexander as Sissy Cobell. And exclusively in the first episode and spilled over a little bit to the second one, we get 3 new office mates, Bob Balaban as Mark W., Aaliyah Shawkat as Gwendolyn Y., and Stefano Caranate as Dario R., who I'm stunned literally just did one-offs.
So do you want to just dive into our nonagon and go right to spoilers? Because
real quick,
really
I want to hit
can't
on a couple
talk about
characters.
Okay.
So you mentioned why this season gets kicked up over season one. I agree. Milchick was a driving force behind that. To me, it's Britt Lauer. I've never seen someone pull double duty the way she does in this show, especially in the first half of the season, where the whole audience, she's acting it so well. The whole audience is like, I don't know if that's Helly or Helena. Like there are signs and there are things there.
Well, I told you that it was. I mean,
you didn't tell me it was.
But
I
even-
told
I told you
everyone
straight up.
from the beginning.
I told
that it
you
was.
You
straight up.
still kind of don't know. She is so good
So
at
first of all, I
being able
told
to
you
move
her
around.
Shoulders, Billy.
But the fact that she has these different character notes for the 2 characters is awesome when you really break it down. And then I still think the greatest mystery and driving force behind the show right now is her character. And I think that's going to play out in season 3. So that was my main thing to kickflip off your Milchick thing. The other thing, and we'll get into it a little bit in spoilers, we get Miss Huang, who really just stands as someone to round out Cobell's backstory, it felt like, ultimately.
Yeah, she was good. I said this a bunch in the other podcast. I love the eye acting from her. She made you uncomfortable every time she was on. I thought she was good. I'm hoping you see her again because they're sending her to that special school that I bet you they send all of those people to. So maybe she'll be back in season 3.
Billy, I'm going to ask moving forward that you don't mention the other podcast. You are on this podcast. This is the Billy that we want. I want you to have no thought of the other podcast.
This is Audi Billy.
And then a couple things to remember from season 1. And I think we kind of forget this, it gets lost in the shuffle. Mark only joins Lumen and gets severed to cope with the loss of his wife. So when we talk about the finale of this season, we're going to have to remember that there could be some other people behind what's going on to get Mark into Lumen in the first place. Number 2, season 1 did very small world building. This season world built the shit out of whatever world we're in. They did a great job continuing to build the Egans and Lumen. I love that aspect.
Is this spoiler-ish, but I still have no idea what the aesthetic of this world is. Like, we see what
Timeless,
it is.
I guess.
We see how, like, there's no time description on really anything in this world, either at Lumen or outside. Everyone's still driving these cars from like the 80s and the 90s. So
but we have smartphones. It's
so let's save that for spoilers. But like, that's something that I thought that they might start to answer, and they still haven't done much with.
Yeah. They have Dylan going car shopping in one of the episodes. Yes. Like, what is he going to pick out a new 95 Jetta? What's going on?
What date is it? The time's right now.
And then again, to refresh anyone's memories, because it was 3 years, but I don't know how you could forget. We finished season 1 with Mark's, yelling, "She's alive," referring to Gemma. And then we cut to black and we waited 3 years. And I think, again, what we already mentioned, why season 2 might be superior, is that note that we leave on. Like, the pulse of this season is up there the whole time.
Also, the finale of this season, really, you need to make a decision. You do, not what's on the screen, because on the screen for season 1, it's an answer. What we have in this one is we have an action that then you either feel a certain way about, you can't stand, or you kind of understand. Like, it's more about, like, this is more of a talking point of a finale where, like,
Agreed.
you're gonna have an opinion on it. The finale in season 1, it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good way to summarize it.
Want to do the nonagon?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Fun factor. And this is the funnest show going right now when it comes to watching it week to week. And in the 6 days between seeing it, trying to understand and put pieces together.
Yeah, it's a great show to investigate things and, like, try to find stuff out without the help of other people, and then you inevitably need it. I will say the plot of this season decidedly less fun than in season 1. A lot more hijinks in season 1.
That this is a show that, like, you need to think about, like, you think out what you think might happen, but then, like, you don't want to throw it at someone else because it might be stupid. Like, you don't.
Oh no, I throw everything against the wall, see if it sticks. This was the most fun I've had in a long time because it's been so long. Maybe The Boys hit this every once in a while a few years ago, where I was excited for Thursday nights at 9:00.
Yeah.
I would say WandaVision was the last one where, like, there was the intrigue at the end of every episode where they led you into the next one. This is a better television show, though. I'll just say that.
It definitely is, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Satisfactor. How satisfied are you? And the finale, and we're not going to go deep into it right now. We'll get into it in spoilers. Had the most of me raising my eyebrows or going like this, giving like the whoopee glasses of, like, lowering my head and saying, "What? Like, what is happening?" Yet everything builds to something that then you say at the end, I either like it, I understand it, I can't fucking stand that guy.
I was cheering at points, and I was yelling for people to go into rooms at points. I was extremely satisfied and, like, active during the episode.
You were like an audience member of Arsenio.
Is that what they're doing right now?
Yeah, a truly great finale. And I think our next 25 to 30 minutes of conversation will decide whether I was satisfied by it or not. Because I would say going in, I'm not satisfied, but that's okay. I liked it. I like where it's going. But I'm actually tremendously frustrated with what happened in the final.
But that's what they want from you. They want that visceral reaction to what happened.
Yes, exactly.
Borometer, were you bored during this season? Now, I will say this, and this is a nitpick. The Cobell episode, while I think the final 5-ish minutes did give you something satisfactory at the end, I did find it to be boring. But it's something that you do need on the show. The one thing that if I'm allowed to, I'm an award-winning writer. What I would have done on that episode, because it was also the shortest episode of the season, I might have cut a B story into it. I might have just had maybe it go away from what she was doing a couple times to not have you focus entirely on that story. But that's just me. I'm a Nobel-winning, prize-winning writer. So
and an orator right there. No, I don't think it was super boring. Even that episode, I think they did it purposefully to kind of slow you down and then speed you up. But I will say, anybody who has a problem with it being like that, I get it. It wasn't the most riveting comparatively, but I kept pausing every 5 minutes to be like, all right, how much time do we have left? What's gonna happen?
Yeah. Like in my mind, everything in this show means something, at least hopefully. So I was not bored at all. I was actually like, because I've been waiting for it. Like Cobell's built up so much in season 1, and then she kind of disappears. So like we know she's coming back in, and we need to know more about her. I was actually like, oh, I now understand her motivations completely. Like I understand why she's so attached to things, and she's going to be a meaningful character big time in season 3. So I thought it was not only necessary but actually fascinating for the character.
plus you love huffing paint, so that fit you well.
That's a big pastime of mine.
Halloween, will this wane over time? And shows like this, I do feel it is going to happen because you're losing that excitement of going from week to week and seeing it for the first time. So that's a natural thing for a show like this.
For me, it won't. I have so many, potential future girlfriends I'm going to show this to, hopefully, and I'll be just as excited to watch it.
Is that in your accounts? Is that in your dating accounts? I'm going to show you Severance.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Which is
hard to say for me.
He sat all of his girls down. He flipped on the TV to a certain television.
I don't know if I said this in that podcast chat or maybe to you, Goo, but my hope for the end of this season was that it kind of ends up like the final 3 seasons of Breaking Bad, 3, 4, 5, or maybe 4 and 5, where it's a massive explosion of a conclusion, but it is a little unsatisfying or is a little incomplete. And then we get an additional season that's a little separate, but is also great in and of itself. And I think we may have gotten that.
Yeah, this feels more like the end of season 3 of Breaking Bad, because seasons 3 and 4 felt like one long season or one long story.
Yeah.
Whereas 4 to 5, you felt like you got that conclusion at the end of 4. Like 1 almost could have been like that, where like that could, not that you'd want that to end, but you could have ended it right there if it didn't have the interest, but it did have the interest. So
Season 4 of Breaking Bad didn't have a lot of places to go, where I feel like this has a ton of places it can go.
Yeah, so I think maybe it's more comparable to season 3 of Breaking Bad then.
Let's go to Arquette World. Is this movie or is this television show better than the 1995 classic Waterworld?
Get that cone out of my face.
Yeah, I would say so.
Kevin Costner should pop up in this show, though, preferably as a mermaid. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And I ask you, Mac, who did that?
I'm having a hard time deciding here, so maybe you guys can help me out with the lemonade here. Every time Natalie pops up, she's great, and there's still a mystery surrounding her. Every scene Gretchen was in with Dylan was awesome. She acted her ass off. Dr. Maurer is terrifying, but also like you're intrigued as to why he's so invested in certain things. Fields pops up for 1 episode, and you're like, there's so many things going on here that are completely unexplained. And then you also had Watkins Burt that only popped up a couple times this season, so maybe could qualify as well.
I would say Burt if he counts. If not, definitely Fields. Fields killed me. You guys weren't using protection down there, I'll tell you that.
And because there's still something there that like doesn't get really addressed at all in the finale. It's almost like purposefully unspoken about. So the Fields and Burt thing might be the leader there.
Pants Tent City. Excite Bike Mania. What got you going from this show? And like the last half hour of the season of that is like pure pants tent, whether it be confusing boners or exciting boners. It is all pants tent. But there is some dialogue in this season, mainly by Milchick, that fucking killed me.
Yeah, the Milchick stuff was great, but I'm telling you, one of the more satisfying moments in recent television history is when Irving is drowning Helly and Seth has to take out the walkie-talkie. Do it, Seth! It was so good. It was like, I got like chills watching it. I was so happy, so satisfied. because us as viewers, especially us three, had sniffed that out, but there were a lot of people that didn't, and that must have been a mind-blowing moment for them, where it was just really satisfying for us.
The Cold Harbor room entrance and that little exit from there, that was it for me. Because that's what you're waiting for, and you got it.
Yep. And then you also have a couple other things in here, like every time we go deeper in this Lumen building and property, you're like, what are the possibilities here? I loved the Mark conversation with himself in the finale. That was great as well.
Some of the best editing I've ever seen storytelling wise. It was brilliant.
It was awesome. And then even though Goo maybe didn't care for the episode, what the Cobell episode gives us informationally is kind of a pants tent too.
I didn't say that I did not care for it. I said if I'm allowed to nitpick on this hour-long podcast.
Okay, sure.
That's what I said.
Sure.
Also, I think maybe the hardest that I have laughed at anything in a long time is when Milchick is asked or told to apologize for using a big word. I thought it was the funniest thing. Max Credit Union. Mac, who are you giving credit to?
To me, it's an easy decision here. Britt Lauer pulling double duty and purposefully trying to throw off the audience and the people in the show was unbelievable. And like, again, at the end, there's a big conversation to be had about what's actually going on there. I just think she was amazing. If she doesn't win an Emmy for her role this season, we riot.
I think you're going to see multiple Emmys from the cast. I think you might see 3 Emmys. Adam Scott, what's the fellow's name that plays Milchick?
Trammell Tillman.
Yep. I would say him, and then Helly. I think all 3 of them will.
I wonder if she gets supporting or lead. She should be a lead, but she might end up being supporting.
It might be supporting.
She should be up for lead. You can have a female and a male lead, right?
Yeah.
Although could the best supporting actor, could they lose votes to each other? Is it like MVP?
No, because it's probably female male, right? So
no, but what I'm saying though is that I think that like Dylan G and
Turtrurro
also need to be considered as well.
That happened a lot in Lost.
Yeah,
where people would get like
because it's such a massive cast.
Yeah.
To that point as well, through the first 4 episodes, Irving was the MVP.
He was.
100%.
He was amazing in that. And because the season, we say the season's long, it's only 10 episodes, but because the season is longer than what we got, like you almost
10 episodes, but it's like 8 or 9 hours. It's a lot.
Like it's a lot to ingest in your brain as well. Yeah. So like you almost forget about Turtrurro in this season.
It's a good point.
And I would say if you did a tabulation of Milchick's time on screen, it's probably pretty low. He does a lot with a little. In that episode where he's just screaming in the mirror, he's in that episode for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, unbelievable job.
Are you saying right now that he's a bit of a Beetlejuice? He's a bit of a Hannibal Lecter?
He's not. He probably tallied more than 15 minutes in any given episode. Maybe say Woe's Hollow. He's only in those little scenes, and he is standing out above everybody.
For those of you targeted for the Mac and Goo party, we rate everything on a 40 hot dog rating system. We just talked about all of this. I think this is the best when it comes to week intrigue. This is 40 dogs. The acting is amazing. The thought in this show is amazing. The writing is very good. It's funny. It's intriguing. It's just weird enough. It does sometimes. I'm not in love with the goat stuff. We're going to find out more about the goat stuff, I think. But this is just good. Put your phone down. Shut the fuck up if you're sitting with someone else. We're watching Severance.
I'm not ready to give it 40 for a couple of reasons. But if you go back to Halloween and we're talking about Breaking Bad, how the next couple seasons build into what those seasons built, maybe it does go up a dog. My initial reaction was 38. I gave season 1 36. I wanted to say 38 on this. I might be 39 because it has dominated my brain space and my mind so much since I've watched the finale. But there's also a few things I actually don't like, and we'll get into it in the spoilers. But again, they could be purposeful. We just don't know that yet. So I'll go 39 with the possibility of it going up or down a dog.
I'm going to go 41 just to even it out for everybody. It's perfect. And not only all the things that Goo said about this show, the cinematography and
Yeah,
editing is world class. Some of the best I've ever seen. The Gemma flashback episode was one of the best television episodes, period.
It was
From
awesome.
every aspect of it.
Yeah.
Literally every aspect was beautiful.
That reminded
Also-
me of what was it, episode 3 of The Last of Us, when they tell that love
Mhm.
story within that world too. Like that was of
Next
the same
level.
ilk.
Yep.
Also started the season with that running sequence that took them like 5
Oh, that
months.
was awesome.
Completely worth it. What a way to start the season and set up the season too.
Yeah, so I'm not like, so the quality of the show is there.
No,
However,
fuck
when
you, Mac.
when
Fuck
you're
you.
dealing with like sci-fi and some time slipping, sometimes things might not connect, and that's all I'm leaving open there.
I'm
By
going to
the
be
way,
irrationally
what a way-
mad in like 10 minutes.
What a way to sit on the fence, by the way, being like,
No,
I'm
39.
39, but I could be 40.
It's the best season of television I watched since season 1 of The Last of Us. Last of Us was a 40-dog season.
Yeah. It's okay to have 2 40-dog seasons.
I agree.
I don't
This
know if
one
you do.
was not there for me.
Shall we get to spoilers?
Yep, let's run
Spoilers,
through
spoilers,
the episodes
spoilers.
real quick. If you really want full episode breakdowns, go listen to Billy on #Dork.
The other Billy.
They did it weekly. We'll name the episode real quick. If you want to chime in with something here, please do. The season opener was Hello, Miss Cobell. This is where Mark comes into the office with a new team.
The opening running sequence is amazing in there, and I did think that at some point in the season they would bring back that other cast of characters to
I thought so
do
too.
something, but I'm also fine with them using them as just like a throwaway and they don't mean anything.
Great Easter egg though from Maybe when she's like, our robots like were animatronic and they moved, and then in the last episode he's moving around.
Yeah, good point. I didn't even catch that. Episode 2, Goodbye, Miss Selvig. Audi Mark contemplates the meaning of a message. Lumen is grappling with the fallout from the overtime contingency. And what we also find out in these first 2 episodes is they straight up lied to Mark. It hasn't been 5 months. They didn't make it into the paper. Like, they're just trying to, get Mark back to work.
This was the biggest oh shit moments besides the end of season 1 of the whole series to this point, because you're finding out so much about everybody, especially like Dylan and Milchek and what's going on with them. This was a great episode. One of, I would say, the top 4 of the series.
Yeah, the first 4 episodes is a lot of them trying to build the trust back up between each other. Dylan really having the existential crisis of like, what is the point of what I'm doing in here? And you also find out the backstory of him like kind of being a loser.
Yeah.
Not having that same personality on the outside, knowing, and I think his character really does sell the fact that it's 2 different people. It's an inside and an outside, and they have nothing to do with each other.
And it's funny to think about too, like, you would say that Mark, Helly, and Irving, although their innies and outies are different, a lot of the same character notes, whereas Dylan's, they were completely different. And from the beginning of season 1 to the end of season 2, his innie probably changes the most.
Well, he seems like he was beaten down by a wife and children, and he used to be like his innie.
Who among us? We also got these first couple episodes of, so you're saying he's a night guard now?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Episode 3, who was
kind of like, so like Turtrurro, he was kind of slipping into like a walk-in a little bit when he was doing it. But the 2 of them on the screen together later on was also great.
Episode 3, Who Was Alive? The squad's all back together at Lumen. And they're like finally all on the same page, trying to figure out what Lumen could be up to. But more and more in the back of your mind, you're like, Helena's behind enemy lines here. This is Helena. This is not Helly. So they need to watch what they're doing and saying.
You sure about that? Sure about that? That's why.
Woe's Hollow, episode 4. This is the retreat they go on, which I guess presumably we have to assume it's in the building somewhere. I don't think they're outside.
I don't know. Like the building goes forever. That's also what we discovered, because I guarantee you it goes to the Egan's house. When they show that shot, it goes forever.
They also have the protocols where they can switch them to the innies on the outside as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just like with some of the physics of what's going on the outside, it doesn't feel like it's outside. But again, we don't know what actual world we're in. This is where Mark fucks Helena, and we're like, oh, he's getting flashbacks of Gemma. But more importantly, this is where Irving finally outs Helly as Helena, because he says, and I think we should remember this when we get to the finale, Helly was never cruel. And it's such a, it's not like something that she, like, it's who Helly is. And I know once we get to the finale, innies are making a change in general, but I think we should remember that.
Also, while this show gets horny in a couple of these episodes, this is one of the unsexiest shows of all time.
In terms of like colors and what they're wearing.
No, in terms of like the sex. It's not very sexy.
Well, it's
no.
pretty normal.
I mean, it'd be pretty cold. You know, they're in England.
I thought it was pretty hot. What are you talking about?
That was pretty accurate. Lasts about 30 seconds under a table. Episode 5, Trojan's Horse. Irving's gone. Milchick gets his progress report. And is this the episode where Helena meets Mark in the restaurant?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
believe
that was the big thing there. Really creepy scene there. Milchick getting his progress report and it being like laminate, like it being so like
a PowerPoint presentation.
That's the shit I love about this show, is all the underlying stuff is like, I don't even know how to describe that. It's just, it was unbelievable. Like that was laugh out loud seeing him getting that pamphlet.
Oh, and then if it takes over 3 hours, we'll order lunch. I hope it won't take over 3 hours. Here's the lunch menu. Just like that's perfect workplace comedy.
Also,
stuff.
his reaction to this stuff is just so good as well.
It's fucking great.
And the best part about him, still, you don't know what his motivations externally are. Which is a theory of mine coming later.
Yeah, that's going to hinge upon whether my score may go up or down this season in the future, because I was pretty bummed to see his actions at the end of the season. Episode 6, Attila. This is where Mark now bangs Helly. He's now double dipped. Irving goes to dinner at Bert's. We meet Fields, and this is also the episode in which Mark officially decides to reintegrate, give Ragabi everything she needs to do.
This might be the Chinese food moment, because that's when he does break.
Oh,
like, all right, let's do it. Yeah. So this is that episode.
Episode 7, Chikai Bardo. This is the episode Billy was talking about. This is Mark and Gemma's backstory. It's incredibly well done. It's emotional. It's sad. And it gives us, because we've this whole season, end of season 1, she's alive. We're talking about Gemma. We're really trying to figure out what the fuck's going on with Gemma
and where she is.
Moment. Yeah, and what's going on, what happened between her and Mark, and we get most of that.
And you get the whole testing floor and all that shit,
right.
All those rooms that she has 25, 24 different personalities, how important she is to this process. And you also, somebody pointed this out, get a couple other like sheltery rooms that are in that area, which means there are probably other people just like her.
Yeah, that's a question that is definitely raised by what the hell the other MDR people are doing. Are they facilitating Mark's work, or are they working on other people, right? And we won't have that answer for a bit.
All of those other people also have to do with Mark?
Yeah, I don't know. That's like one of the bigger mysteries still surrounding what's going on.
What does the brother-in-law have to do with this?
Right?
That's the biggest miss from this entire series, because Rickon in season 1 would have been my Plemonade, maybe my MVP. He's one of the naturally most funny characters on TV ever.
And like when they reached out to him about the book almost being gospel and changing some stuff around for Lumen, I'm like,
right?
Does he have something to do with Lumen?
I read the book. It seems like from the book, nothing, but the way he switched so quickly, something.
I'm sorry, Billy. Can you please step out?
And Natalie is in. Natalie goes to Devin and Rickon's home. Like, there's fucking something. There's something there. And I'm not saying Devin really changed her actions, but the fact that she was willing to leave her infant son for 2 days and Rickon, and like that was fine. That was fucking weird too.
Her facial acting throughout the course of the last few episodes leads me to believe she's up to something. I don't know what it is.
And she was so quick to go to Cabell too.
Billy, what was in the book?
So it's basically the beginning of his life and his life story, and that he was actually closer to Gemma than Mark was, and that him and Mark have always had a little friction. They had a huge falling out after the death of her, because he basically said, you're a joke, she didn't even like you, we made fun of you all the time, type of stuff. But he was also birthed by 2 like performance artists, mother and father. Their band, their group was called Hump Dumpster. So he's like an odd guy. Like, the reason he's so weird is because his parents are so weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that whole autobiography, like the UUR, is like fake and he's just like a lumen plant all along. But if he's true to the book, he's a wacky, wild, crazy guy. But the fact that he switched so quickly, I'm with Mac. It doesn't make any sense because from
There's
season
something
1
there.
to season 2, he seems like a kind of guy you would never get to switch. He's like one of those Apple employees that you walk in and like he's just like that kind of guy that's like.
Well, I could see him switch in the way of like, being a sellout.
Yeah, but they seem like super
Billy,
wealthy.
have you ever been offered money?
Yes. They seem
And
like the
you
best
usually do
to
stuff
do,
for the money, right?
But there's also something like why Devin even chose Rickon in the first place, right? There's just something weird with
because
Devin
the way
and
that
Rickon.
he writes speaks to the people on the inside.
Because they're all dummies.
Yeah, because they're all idiots.
No, I get that aspect. That aspect I can
But
buy.
the
I'm just
other
saying
thing
the
is
outside part is
his
a little
words
bizarre.
in the book actually have a lot of depth. Like, they're not just like silly
How long is
nothing
this
words.
book?
It's I didn't actually read it. I'm not like a reader.
Audiobook.
Podcast.
Audiobook.
I was
I
so
listened.
excited about that.
No, I don't read. Are you kidding me?
Episode 8, Sweet Vitriol. This is Cobell's
Mm-hmm.
backstory. We learn that Harmony Cobell was the inventor of Severance, and essentially Lumen stole her work, patented her work. And so really why she's so invested is because it's her work. It's Lumen by name, but it's what she developed. And this is why she's so invested. You find out at the end of season 1 with Ragabi and reintegration, because it's probably shit she was also working on that got halted by Lumen. So she's just intrigued by the scientific aspects of everything, because her work got stopped and halted by Lumen, taken over by Lumen.
I think they've perverted it.
Yeah, so that's part of it too, right? So I think the majority of her interest, is scientific. And I think prior to this episode, we read into her as being like a really bad person. When you find out where she grew up, like was trying to do really good things because of the way she grew up.
And she wanted to start a throuple with Mark.
It's true. Even though Mark has a few throuples going on. And in the finale, you get a key little thing from her where Mark's about to leave as any Mark. And he goes, if you care about your brother, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, Mark, I care for you. And it was almost needless if she doesn't have some sort of connection to him. You know what I mean? Other than just the fact of the Severance chip. I think she was behind the whole Jimmy kidnapping and car accident and like getting them to be together because, hey, the only way this is going to work to map somebody is if we get a couple in love or something.
Right.
Oh, also, we didn't even mention this. We have the whole, the any Dylan cucking outie Dylan as well.
Yeah, right. That's would you be jealous of your own self?
Yes.
And I also
they're different people.
And we're getting to this in a minute here, the actual finale. I loved the contrast that Dylan's outie was actually pretty thoughtful and forgiving to his innie, and then you have the two Marks basically screaming at each other,
which I think is going to lead into, and this was my theory, like midway through the year, was that by the end of this show, there will be no more outie Dylan. Any Dylan will just take over the Dylan life.
It seems to me that outie Dylan may have made a change, though. Like he may have, like, I don't know.
They're also in love with the same person, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mark and Mark are in love with different people.
That's a good point.
I also think we're already watching somebody who is only an innie, and I think that is Milchek. I think his outie has been removed. And that is why you don't really see his external motivations, because it's probably pretty fucking sad.
Yeah.
I think we'll get to it.
Yeah. That's something that looms large. Episode 9, the After Hours. Devin was seeking out Cobell, finally gets in contact with her, brings Mark to Cobell. They go to that cabin. In this episode, we also get, what's his face? The big dude.
Drummond?
Drummond telling Milchek to apologize, and Milchek says, devour feculence.
It means eat shit. I say this is basically a 2-part finale because it's so interconnected.
Yeah, for sure. And like the drive and like the buildup of getting to that cabin, which it was a great idea, and them dropping that in season 1, knowing it was going to play back now, is awesome. And I find it interesting that like, I guess that so because like Gemma has 25 personalities, right? So if she would to go to the cabin, she would be Miss Casey. So it's like very calculated as to which one would pop up. You know, it's interesting, like to which door they would go through matters. But we didn't really get into that too much. So finally, we get to the finale, episode 10, Cold Harbor, and let me start by saying I fucking hated the ending. I hated the
Loved it.
ending so much.
I loved it.
We spend 2 seasons, a season and a half, wondering about Miss Casey. We finally figure out where Gemma is, how to get there. We freed Gemma in fantastic fashion. That 20 or 30 minutes when he goes into Cold Harbor and he pulls her out and she turns back in to Gemma and he's Mark because that's a different floor. Amazing moment. Really satisfying. And he does what he's supposed to do. He gets her out that door. And I'm also wondering, I'm sure she picks up as they're running through or as she's looking back through the glass. She doesn't know Mark severed until maybe the moment at the very end. Maybe she's putting 2 and 2 together. But that's interesting that he never even mentioned to her before they went up. Like, hey, by the way, I'm severed when we get to this floor. I guess she wouldn't remember because she's Miss Casey, but she would have remembered when she got out. So that was kind of pretty convenient. That bothered the shit out of me because if you're Mark, you would tell her you were severed.
I don't know, but you also don't know what Gemma knows down there. She might know because she's like, do I get to see Mark then? She might be able to know that Mark's up. I don't know. It's a very, I see your point.
Right. I think
like,
I would have told her
do you want
on the way up, as we hit the elevator, by the way, I'm severed.
He just freed his wife.
Stop and explain the whole plan?
Because they're in the building, though. They're still in the building, so it matters when he's severed and when he's not.
Finally see her and get her out
You know
of the
adrenaline
that's
just pumping through your
body?
It
bothered me.
That's
the adrenaline. Thank you, Billy. The adrenaline.
I didn't even think first. You can't even operate your keys when you're like that adrenaline pumped up. You're not going to be like, hey, by the way.
Time out.
No. You just tell her right before you smooch going up, hey, by the way, I'm severed. That might matter. And she'll figure it out. She's been there too.
But it won't matter because she won't even know.
No, but when she goes back through the glass, she doesn't know, which makes it even more heartbreaking. I do think she puts it together. She's not stupid. I think she figures it out. We get that look from Helly at the end as Mark's already gone past the corner. She looks specifically at Gemma and she pulls a Helena move. She acted like a Helly would never.
That's all you
ever,
get.
Ever.
You don't get any of those, Bill.
Now they do spend the episode in this whole innings revolt, and they're making decisions for themselves. But if she really cared for Mark and she knows Gemma's the wife, she should have pushed Mark. Helly should have pushed Mark to Gemma. Well, Helly should have done that.
She did that in the verbal conversation they have at the desk.
Because I think that was Helly.
That she does. There is a really good theory. Like she says, meet at the equator. Lumen is the actual equator in their logo, which is kind of a cool little tie in there. And that door is supposedly the equator of the entire building, separating the in from the out. So when she says, meet me at the equator, they're talking about right there. And if you go back and look at Helly's look, it is a little bit of a fuck you. But when on rewatch, it's not as damning as like, hey, bitch, I got your man.
She's got shit on her face.
It's not. It's quick and it's not as bad as you think. First viewing, I was like, oh shit. I loved it though. Because Mark's a slave owner.
I think that she spends this episode partially as Helly and partially as Helena. I don't think she's Helena the whole time.
I think that's definitely plausible.
That does coincide with a couple things that would have to happen. You know, after Milchek goes out, he either has to contact someone or activate the Glasgow block himself so that she becomes Helena, so that he's not fighting a losing battle by himself.
I think it might have all been Helena, and I think that I think a part of what they might have been trying to do is now Mark might never leave the building. Mark might want to stay in that building because as soon as Mark leaves, he's never going to go back.
So to that point, we do open the episode with Helena's father basically saying he prefers Helly. So there also is the chance that he somehow has the power to flip them. Now Helena's down there and Helly will be the outie because he likes the spunk in Helly compared to
Helly
Helena.
will never do that. I think the theory of
She
her
wouldn't have the
switching.
option.
Yeah, I think her switching at the very end is a pretty good theory, like just for that moment. Because to your point about the door, when she's escaping from the door in the early season, she can come in and out freely, right? But then
Yeah,
when she
right. And
tries to break out of it, she can't.
so that was the next point. I'm glad you brought that up. So now Gemma's on the outside of that door, and the last time we saw anything with this door, someone could come right back in. Now, maybe that's because Helena can get in wherever the hell she wants, which is a possibility. But that there's also something a little fast and loose there. Like, why couldn't Gemma just open that door?
The creators might look at you and go like, "Come on, guy," or they might have a deeper meaning for it in later seasons.
Yeah.
I loved that Mark walks away with Helly. Because to me, for me, when you think about it really, this show is still about like workplace and corporate slaves. And Mark created his own slave. And then he slighted him at the beginning of the episode, being like, "Hey, I know you have your own little thing down there. Imagine that, but by 100." It's like, dude, you created me. You gave me this little slice of life, which Helly says. And I think that means that's really her down there, because she said the most poignant thing, like, you gave us this little slice of life and you expect us not to fight for it. Then he walks away with her, and to me, he has every right to do that. He fulfilled his job. He freed Gemma, and he's kind of useless now. Drummond was gonna kill him, and like
Yeah.
without thinking about it. So they're gonna have to. My theory is they create a revolution with the band, and
But
they try
so-
to take over the floor.
Yeah, but like it's so fruitless and like short-sighted when they've spent 2 seasons building out a really well thought out thing, and so they're going to run down the hall for 3 minutes and then get
No,
caught.
now Mark is forever. So Mark never wants to leave again. Mark
He's going
wants
to have to.
You don't know that now.
Yes, I do.
No, because Annie and Outie Mark had this deal.
Lumen is not going to let Mark just run around the building.
It's not run
Mark's
around the
done
building.
with what they needed
It's
him
not run
for.
around the building. This might have been what the purpose of what they wanted. They wanted him to forever be there, and now they can move on to a new plan.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't think
sure.
Drummond would have snuffed him out. Like Drummond was gonna kill him with no hesitation.
Exactly, because they're done with any Mark.
No,
they
but
don't need
they
him
also
anymore.
might have known that he had the ability to take out the fucking giants. You got to slay the giant to save the
do, like,
princess, my man.
Dramatically
Fairy
and
tale.
artistically, them running away down the hall in this sort of whimsical, crazy, dreamlike sequence, a la The Graduate, is like fun in good story wise. But to your point, Billy, about the innies and this workplace thing, and there is a bigger meaning for what this show is about. But what this show is about to me, or what it became, is Mark and Gemma. To me, it became that, and not what the show
Maybe they're
kinda
going off to
started at.
Romeo and Juliet
So,
themselves and
that's
screw
why-
their outies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so upset, because I was rooting for this Mark and Gemma thing the whole
You got it.
time. But we kind of did.
Yeah, but
That's
Mac,
the
you
best
also-
part.
You also rooted for Jim and Pam, and then look what happened there. It ruined the
Let's
show.
To go there.
I
Yeah,
think
but
it's okay
ruin the
because
show.
one, this show is going to go in a million different directions and you don't know. My theory is that Milchek on the top of that thing screams out, "I'm an innie," as well. And they literally all band together and they try to take out Lumen that way. Like, there's no way it's going to be as simple as Mark and Helly get killed and the show's over, right? Something cool is going to
That'd be an
happen.
amazing season premiere of season 3.
Well, so if you look at, like, I guess for lack of a better terms, the battle lines, we don't even know if Gemma's going to make it out of the building, which also pisses me off.
She will.
That was my first
you have-
question. Do you guys think that she makes it out of the building?
Probably.
I think so too. And then season 3 is her trying to get Mark out.
Well, you have Cobell, Ragabi, Devin, Rickon on the outside, and maybe some others. And then you have the innies still in. There's just no conceivable way that Lumen is going to want Mark in the building. And they control enough other severed people to make anything happen that they want.
Mark is the key.
No, he's not anymore. He's done. They're done with Mark. They're done with
might
Gemma.
just be a
That was the
different
whole
level.
point of Cold Harbor.
I
It's so
kind of
many
agree with that part of it. So I do think they're just going to go around and free all the innies and be like, "Hey, we don't have to take this shit anymore," and free the other departments. Like, look how big fucking. Also, the fact that they pulled out the '96 Bulls intro music was one of the greatest
Amazing.
moments in television history. Hands
That
down.
that was one of the moments where my eyebrows raised up, and I'm like, "Wait, are we doing this? This is what we're doing?"
Phenomenal.
So let's get to the cabin conversations, because there's multiple and they're very meaningful. What also bothers the shit out of me is Mark having this innie outie conversation on a camcorder when they have smartphones. What was that?
But
What
do they
decision
have
was that?
cameras on those smartphones?
I mean,
Well, but
presumably.
also we've seen every time that Helena has spoken to Helly, season 1, it would always be with the camcorder.
Well, because she wouldn't have a phone when she was down there.
Right,
know?
but I think they're just trying to keep the continuity of what they've already been doing.
Fair enough. I didn't care for that. It was bothered the shit out of me. We get the confirmation of the tempers here from Cobell talking to any Mark, and we learn that the MDR numbers are the building blocks of people's minds. So Mark has completed 25 files. It's 25 different gemmas down on that hell floor. But that begs the question then, what are the other 3 MDR workers doing? Are they supporting Mark's work? Are they helping facilitate all of his files, the 25 gemmas? Or are Dylan, Irving, and Helly working on other things? I don't know.
Are they feeding Mark's files?
Right. I don't know if I don't know.
So in season 1, they say Mark had a freshman fluke and he refined more files faster than anybody ever. They also say that 1 in 5 files expires. So I think they're all working on people and they're just not as good as Mark is because Mark has such a strong connection with who he's doing it for. And he finally got to the 25 quota where they were going to pull it out of her, kill her, and sell it as the prototype.
Huh. Yeah, I could believe that. It's just, that's another where they answered a question. Now we had 3, 4, 5 more questions because of the answer we got. We get Devin and Audi Mark being pretty much cold to any Mark, like you mentioned, which I do think properly motivates him for the decision he makes at the end. I just hated it. We get the robot absolutely ethering Milchek here, the Egan robot. And then, of course, we get the choreography and merriment with this marching band sequence, which I don't know why it's there. But again, in season 1, we had a lot of weird parties. So I guess it makes sense in that respect. It was awesome.
It's for the internet. It's for making memes and for making videos. They know what they're doing.
Also, Milchek running out of the room after he hands Devin the note. It's fucking crazy.
That was dynamite.
He said that he just did it for fun in one of the takes. And he's like, when I watched the finale, I couldn't believe they used that one. He's like, I guess it made sense.
The other big revelation, we get many of them in this episode, I guess. Cold Harbor is the cradle room. It is one version of any Gemma having to disassemble the crib model, which was called Cold Harbor back in episode 7, and see if it would, break the block or whatever in there. And that is just so low.
Yeah.
So low. So
and they're
emotional.
playing their song too. Like their love song is played.
It's just brutal. Just that is unbelievable. And then that sequence we get after that, we get Audi Mark, Audi Gemma. Well, we get Cold Harbor Gemma, Audi Mark, Audi Gemma, and then we get Miss Casey, any Mark, and then we get Audi Gemma, any Mark. Like that dynamic was really cool to play with. And then obviously, the couple deaths that happen along the way. Like
Drummond getting his brains blown out is so phenomenal.
So satisfying and like a really creative way to do it. Like he didn't want to kill him, but because of that, it was just perfect. What do we think was the point of the 25 gemmas? Why 20? Like, why not just like 1 or 10? Like, I don't understand why this might be. And one of the prevailing internet theories is that they're testing this number or this amount on Gemma because ultimately they're going to implement something like this on Helly so she can carry all the consciousnesses of the Egans.
That's crazy.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because why were they doing so many?
So I thought that this was going to be the prototype they sell as the Severance chip to people who are like, okay, so you want to go to the dentist and not remember it? We have a chip for that. You want to do this? We have a chip for that. That's what I thought.
25 slots you can fill.
Yeah.
That might be it too. Yeah.
Once again, Adam Sandler's Click.
I also, and we talked about this a little bit via text. What was the death of that goat going to accomplish? Is just strictly sacrificial?
I'm sure that they'll explain it further, but it's almost just too it's just too much. That's always the animal that's tied to sacrificial with so many of the religions that almost just seems like the go-to, right?
I guess so. Yeah. It was a weird thing.
Because the prevailing theory before was that the goat brain and the human brain are similar, but that's a baby goat and she's going to shoot it right in the fucking head. So
yeah. And I'm wondering now that if they just introduced that aspect of Lumen so that they could bring them up there so that she could help Mark in that scene.
Yeah.
Because they haven't. There's been no explanation for why they are.
That might be it.
Again, we get Cobell kind of getting rounded out in episode 7. I also think this episode does a good job to show that she's not working for Lumen. She was working for them because it was the only way she could be near Severance or monitor Severance. I don't think she wants Lumen to succeed at all.
So she went full scorched earth, and you can tell that she did because at the beginning of episode 2 or 3, she's at the entrance to Salt's Neck, says, nah, let me see if I can just go do it normal and get my job back. And then when they were like, oh, they're going to fucking kill me, I'm going to go nuclear, burn bridges, and just go napalm on everybody by saying, I created this, not James.
That's a good point. I forgot about that little end scene in episode 2 or 3 there. Again, Dylan's letter from his outie was great and really heartfelt and a good contrast to the Mark situation. Jumping back to Milchek, I was so disappointed that he didn't help in the end there. And you're right, maybe we open season 3 where he isn't any or he is helping them, but they spent so much time dropping stuff in there this season for him to turn in this episode, and he didn't.
But they also didn't. So season 1 set him up as a future boss. This season didn't really set anyone else up as like a future boss next season, unless you just go to the highest point of Hallie's father.
So I do think Milchek is an innie, and I think because he's doing a lot of the rebelling, not on the severed floor or in the office, I think that may be a doorway for him because he's always all business in the severance room or in those areas.
So you think that he could be
a Gemini?
Do you think there is an outie Milchek at all anymore?
No, I think there's a few innies of him. That would be my weird theory.
Okay, so that's like that. We're gonna need massive clarification on Milchek and what his motivations are because it does really affect a lot
Billy,
of what happened.
Did you see anything click in him when he was in the room trying to kick over the vending machine?
I don't know if I saw anything click in him there, but the biggest thing to me was this season when Miss Wong goes, don't give them a funeral. It makes it feel like they're real people. And the look in his eye is not, shut up, little girl. It's like, I'm one of them. Fuck you.
Yeah, you're right. That was an important scene too. That's a good point.
And he also, when Irving in season 1 says to him, you're not severed. And he doesn't look mad. He looks like depressed. Like, dude, you don't even know I am.
Can't reveal it.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of good points. Speaking of Miss Huang, like it's at least appears to me that she just sort of existed for them to really make you believe more of like a young Cobell and how young Cobell sort of like navigated Lumen, because ultimately she didn't matter at all in this season.
Yeah. And Ragabi too.
Speaking of Ragabi, we thought at the end of season 1 she was working against Cobell. Now I think they're probably going to be in cahoots, right? They're cut from the same sort of cloth. It feels like they're going to be working together going forward.
So someone else that I talk about this show with behind microphones, we have a theory where they might be like Obi-Wan and Darth Vader type of deal. Like she was her Miss Wong and they kind of split paths. And then that's why they're so like one of them was like, don't talk to her, she's evil. And Ragabi on the Cobell on the phone was like, Ragabi, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. I was starting to think of it more though that Ragabi was doing this because Cobell is being watched way more than Ragabi would be. So she was sort of an extension of Cobell, but you could absolutely be right about that.
Also, is the theory of the entire town or the entire area being under Lumen control, any outie, is that out the window?
Probably. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Just because like the entire setting,
I feel like it's not even worth addressing though, because I'm so concerned about this story. I don't want to widen it that much, you know.
What if the entire world is severed, Mac?
But so speaking of, okay, go ahead, Bill.
No, there's theories because Lumen's so water based. There's all the file names were water, that they're poisoning the water supply to slowly
fucking
control
Batman
people.
Would stop them then. Batman's always stopped the Joker and the Riddler and the Scarecrow from poisoning the water supply.
I guess I should have led with this point. This is my biggest disappointment in this season and probably why I can't give it 40. we spent so much time talking about reintegration during season 1 and this season, and ultimately it didn't mean a fucking thing. It was just basically to give you a B or C story in a couple episodes and kind of loosely connect Cobell and Ragabi. Ultimately, it meant nothing. Like, it doesn't mean anything.
They tried to sell it to Mark in the finale too. That's a little bit of it. Like, hey, I'll be around. I think Ragabi's just really bad at it, and she fucked it up.
Yeah,
Also,
it gets built up to this big thing, and the big thing in the episode 6 or whatever it was is he's gonna be reintegrated, and it didn't come back up. He's never reintegrated. It never matters. That really bothered me because we spent so much time on reintegration, and it mattered not.
Also, if it is a big worldwide takeover or a poisoning of the water supply type of stuff, like, I'm going to be very disappointed in that.
Yeah, I'll agree. That's why I want to keep it a little more.
Yeah. To your point, Mac, with that, they could have solved all the reintegration stuff with Ragabi after she almost kills him saying, I fucked it all up. We're going to have to start from scratch. If they just put that one line in there, that would have made me happier. But I get your complaint there. It is valid because he should be at least flashing a little bit, right?
And now so season 3 that still lingers. So like Audi Mark is gonna want to reintegrate so that he can still be, I guess, maybe a sleeper agent or whatever.
Oh, question.
But now any Mark might be pushing back against it in his own brain. Like, now it's like probably still gonna matter, and I'm just gonna be bothered by it, I guess.
Billy, question. Can you answer this? Could any Mark, if he has now locked himself in the building, he refuses to come out, could he try and unintegrate himself as like he tries to make himself the dominant Mark so that when he leaves the building, it is him?
I think that Milchek could do it, or Helena could do it, or Helena could do it. I definitely think that is on the table. I think somebody becoming a full-blown innie all the way, I think you're going to find out there's a lot more of those than you think, because I think that's the goal of a lot of this is to get people totally.
Well, Helena would have the power to be able to Glasgow block him, and so it would be Audi Mark or any Mark outside.
So they can't Glasgow block him. That's making him the inside person on the bottom floor. You'd have to forever OTC.
Well, look, I thought that the possibility of an innie taking over the entire body would have to be signed off on by the Audi. But now I'm trying to think of, like, can Mark on the inside, can any Mark be like, no, I'm going to take over this body, and without the consent of Audi Mark, who signed him in?
Well, I think I think all that shit's out the window. I think we're in.
Well, what you're talking about, Goo, you're overthinking it.
I don't want to underthink it.
If the possibility exists, that's Helena at the end. Helena's just going to do that.
Exactly.
That she has Audi Mark or any Mark outside. She'll have the power to be able to do that.
Yeah. To me, it's prison rules now. Anything goes from here on out on that floor.
And then I have one last thing, which we have briefly touched upon, and you guys can bring up anything I missed here. The Burt Field stuff and Irving, that's going to have to still matter somehow in season 3, right? Like, that's still going to rear its head at some point. And I think they did a good job giving us a taste of that as like the season's maybe C or D story, and then we'll deal with that later. I wasn't overly concerned that
the conversation of Christopher Walken wanting to become an innie so that his innie can go to heaven, at least added some layers to their characters.
Yeah, it feels like he genuinely does care about Irving, so that's something.
Yeah, I think we're going to get more from Irving just from the fact that he was out to get Lumen in the first place. He seems like a military man, dog radar, all that kind of stuff, saluting Milchek. So I think he's definitely going to play loom large in season 3 for sure.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, it seems inevitable that Cobell might find Irving and utilize Irving somehow to do whatever they.
Well, now if they're on the outside, you have the possibility of Irving and you have Gemma that could be a part of that team trying to take them out from the outside.
I'm just, I shouldn't doubt them because these 2 seasons were great. I'm just like fucking annoyed. No,
I think that you've seen too many television shows drop the ball when they have something
great
going. Yeah,
that's part of it. And you mentioned Westworld earlier. Perfect example of a show that was, maybe bordering on 40 dogs. Great idea, sci-fi, thrilling, mystery aspects, and it fucking sucked.
When they try
Don't
to
get him in
widen the
trouble
world
for
too
something.
far. Yeah. It's when they
Don't
try
get
to
him in
widen the
trouble
world
for
too
something
far.
they haven't done yet.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's
Mac gives it 30 hot dogs. I think they're gonna mess this up in the future.
We have
That's-
a podcast to do today.
that's the glass half empty of this going forward, because so many shows have fucked it up. Hopefully
Mm-hmm.
this is the rare that it doesn't. But ultimately the reason why it's not 40 dogs is emotionally I hated the decision from any Mark.
I
And
like that
also,
better.
the reintegration stuff is bothering the shit out of me.
That's fair. I do like stories that aren't happy endings because I don't get a lot of happy endings. Either way you slice it. So,
But this is two sad endings in my mind, because
yeah,
Helly and Mark or whoever's running down the hallway there,
It's not
that's
an
going to last
ending,
3
though.
minutes.
It's a
That's
to
the
be
thing, though.
continued. It's a to be continued. It's not an ending.
Okay,
I
sure.
want my shows to make me feel something.
Yes.
And the
It
feeling
did make me feel. I
the-
had a visceral reaction.
So the feeling of them getting out together would be through the roof. The feeling of them going the opposite way blew my fucking mind. It made you more mad than you would have been
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if he had left the building, what would they do moving forward?
Because Helena is still in charge of everything. That's sort of my point. Helena is the key to everything, and she has so much control
Yeah, but
inside and outside.
At that point, though, Mark has no need to ever go near that building ever again. He
Mhm.
just moves.
Yeah.
They're
But
smarter
once
than us.
again-
They have a good plan. I'm
Yeah.
guaranteeing.
So the only conceivable, not
Look,
the only.
I'm with Billy. Max
The thing that
making
makes
his
most
hand-
sense now is then most of season 3 will take place over only a couple of days. Then
The whole
because-
series may have taken place over 4 weeks.
you might be right about that.
I also think
But
that we will get
because
season 3.
we can only spend so much time inside this building with any Mark now.
It's gonna be like an episode of 24.
Well, no, you say that, Mac, but we don't know the extent of how big this building is, though. Like, there
So-
could be.
Again, if you want to go
Miles,
down that route, then it
miles,
has to
miles.
be Helena at the end, because she would know where to go and she could hide anywhere. So it would have to be Helena at the end if you want to go that route.
What if Helena is actually twins and there's multiple Helenas? And twins.
can.
Has anyone? Has
Okay, I'll grant you
thrown
guys
that out
this.
there yet?
We could get real interesting still in the Lumen building, but the only way that's possible is if it's Helena down there and not Helly.
Or Milchek turns Team Innie.
No, because I guess he would have access to areas too. Yeah, you're right.
That could be a possibility. That's my guess because I do like her being down there and being a badass. The thing I wanted to talk about was James Egan seemed like the weirdest, biggest lame. But when he yells out the double fucks and sitting in that little pucker room, it killed me.
When he just became alive.
Oh fuck. Oh fuck.
Yeah, and that's like we've been talking about the Egans in this whole business and family for a while, that it feels inevitable that everything around season 3 will be like the Egans and Helena and Helly versus Cobell or Gabi, all these people that have been slighted.
Imagine if we get the equivalent of Chikai Bardo, but it's all like Jane from marrying or birthing whoever all the way up to Helly. That would be fucking awesome.
Yeah. I also think that as maybe fitting as it is, as if it's Helly and Innie Mark at the end because the Innies chose themselves, I think that doesn't lead to as many possibilities as if that was Helena and Innie Mark. I think there's more storytelling possibilities if Helena exists there and not Helly.
True. I also do think the I sired many in the shadows almost confirms my theory that Cobell is likely his daughter. And I think Miss Wong is probably his daughter as well.
That could certainly be a possibility.
Let's get into Maxac.
And Maxac could be anything. It could be a boat. And this week, just a quick update on our food mascot, Macness. We are into the second round. We had a number of upsets, but we'll blame Mac for terrible seeding. The one thing that I want to point out is that you people out there, you fucking people, went into our beautiful, blissful bracket and messed it up. You took at 15, the 15 seed, this little piece of dough, popping fresh, and you took him over a fucking giant cheesy dinosaur. Where do you get the gall?
What I maybe underestimated is the magical abilities of the Pillsbury Doughboy.
And I think the age, because I don't know who that guy is.
You're the same age as us, Billy.
I'm like
You're
6
us.
years older than you guys.
Yeah,
So
then you had more of them.
Really?
Kraft cheese and macaroni.
I just
These are
remember.
easy.
Goose champions out in round 1.
I will say that my runner-up is still in there. Crazy
Okay,
Craven was
but you
almost-
campaigned for him for 2 days, so that
Crazy
doesn't
Craven
even count.
was almost knocked out by Diggum the Frog.
You were creating burners to vote on that one.
So many. I would like to thank Gert B. Frobe, who went through and gave us a finishing move in every single one of the mashups. So I want to thank you, Gert. And then to Walsh 617, who told me in multiple tweets, posts, for me to go fuck myself and for Stegosaurus Rex to go fuck himself. I see you, 617.
Love the passion. Love
Yeah.
that.
But I will say this once again. This bracket, this mascot bracket, dead to me. I don't even care about it anymore.
I don't know.
Did
I know who
anyone-
Poppin' Fresh is. I didn't know who the hell the other guy was.
Did anyone at your work also have Cheezosaurus Rex winning it all?
So many people. By the way, I have a giant. I want to thank everyone at WBZ. There is a giant wall at my work right now covered in food mascot brackets of all of my coworkers who filled these out. I will say I'll apologize to the higher ups. I was a bit of a distraction. I apologize.
It
I
got the
didn't
people
need
going.
to do that. I didn't think that this would capture everyone's imagination, and then they
Yeah.
would ruin it by putting that piece of shit doughboy ahead of my Cheezosaurus Rex.
Oh, I
So
love
upset. Mac, where can the people find us?
it. You can find us on X and on Instagram at Mac and Goo Podcast. Every other platform we are Mac & Goo. It's Mac Shift 7 Goo. It includes Facebook, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify, but more importantly, we're on Apple Podcasts. Get on there, rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars. If you do that, we'll get you a free Mac and Goo t-shirt from the folks over at Watertown Sportswear. Watertown Sportswear on 34 Mount Auburn Street in Watertown. WatertownSportswear.com, expert screen printing and embroidery.
tpublic.com merch. I will within the next couple days. Billy has sent me some sweet designs for Severance, and we'll open a little shop for some
Love that.
Severance phrases and whatnot. Maybe you'll write out any. Howdy.
That's easy money.
Just
Yeah,
printing
It
money.
really is.
Is
That's
Audi
all we're
2
doing.
T's or 1?
I'd go
I think
2.
It's 2 on both. It's 2 N's and 2 T's.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Billy, we should learn this before we start making these shirts.
Yeah, because it auto corrects every time I write it to the 1 T, but it doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel right at all.
No.
Billy, want to plug yourself?
Yeah, Pineapple Boys every Thursday. We are back, and then check out the Dork Podcast if you want individual recaps of all the episodes of this show. And we'll be doing the season finale out in a couple days, probably.
Yeah, Billy's other podcast with that shithead Doc from that TLDR piece of shit podcast.
Yeah, Billy should feel slighted too because he didn't win Podcast of the Year.
I didn't. We only did like 6 episodes last year. Though, so.
That makes me think that Fryer's just a better co-host than you.
He really is.
Look at the transitive property here.
The handsome devil, too.
Yeah, can't argue that. Anything else, Mac?
That's it.
All right.
Hopefully, maybe next week we'll see the Rod Ortega Death of a Unicorn. Talk about it sometime next week.
Yep, and we'll do a news dump at the end. Talk
All right.
about Alto Nights, the Robert De Niro movie. He's so nice, they did him twice.
I heard it was really, really boring.
Well, he just plays a saxophone for 2 hours. Tuesdays are Goose Days. I have used kangaroos. Tim Burton.
Please flip the cassette over to side B to continue the adventure.
Now it's time for girls jumping on trampolines.